Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. I know you've all been waiting since yesterday. Episode number 2 is officially underway. And I thought this show was originally going to be for the league members, but apparently it's being shared across some of the networking, considering it's already got 30 views and there's only 12 league members. So I'm glad to see that you guys are passing that along. So this goes out to the GPDL fans as well. I hope you enjoy. Some controversy surrounding Jared Fox yesterday, specifically around the fact that he did not originally have Mike the GOAT Bradley in the playoffs. Many thought that Mike the GOAT would be the guest today. That is not the case. He and I have been in communications. He will be visiting the show very soon. But we have a very special guest. He's actually on the line right now. Nick, Sons of Washington Galetta, will be joining us today. And just to give you a little intro about Nick, 2 years in the league and actually just made his first playoff appearance. Some call him he was the rookie. I don't think, did you win Rookie of the Year, Nick? Or did Pat Russ take that?
I won that. No, I don't believe I won it.
But some say that you are the next wave of fantasy football, a true innovative mind. And a young up-and-comer. Without further ado, Nick Galetta, how you doing?
Doing all right, OTT. Doing all right.
So, as we get into it, first I want to, let you have the soapbox for a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself as a fantasy football guy. How you got into it, and where you see yourself positioned in the GPDL.
Sure. So. Honestly, I've probably done fantasy football since I was, 9, 10 years old, something like that. But I never took it as seriously as I did until I joined GPDL. It was always just something that was on the back burners. Cared more about the actual, the football itself and standings, all that. And I still care more about the Redskins than anything else. But since I've joined this league, it's I'd be lying if I said it wasn't an addiction come football season.
Yeah, no, addiction I think is for some of us maybe even understated. It definitely projects itself into top of the priority list. Fall into the winter.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So with that being said, I got to do my due diligence. I got some pretty aggressive questions for you, and just answer them with all the honesty you can. Okay, so. First I got to say, you took an expansion team, year one. I don't think anyone would say that you and Pat Russ really excelled in the fantasy expansion draft. I think there were some misses because you guys were understanding the league, etc. But you've built a contender. You made the playoffs in year 2. You won the division, the NFC West, in year 2. Two things. Is that, first part of the question, is that a sign of things to come from Sons of Washington?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, going into year 1, I think Pat and I had a little bit different strategies. He made a lot of big trades, went after some high-priced people. I think I had more of a long-term thinking approach where it's not that I wasn't going for the playoffs year 1, but I knew that I couldn't risk the longevity of Sons of Washington just to try and get in year 1 and prove myself. So I tried to get some guys at a reasonable price who I thought could be on my team for not just year 1, but maybe year 2, year 3, etc. So I did that with some guys. I was able to trade away a couple guys and get some additional pieces last year that helped me, get to the playoffs, but also still maintain that, competitiveness past year 2 and year 1. And so I think that is a sign it comes for a sign of things to come for Sons of Washington. I think. I don't know that you'll ever see me with a year, with 2 to 3 wins at the bottom of the pile. I'll always be competitive, whether it's 4 to 5 wins and sneaking in the playoffs, like we've seen happen in the NFC West the past 2 years. But I don't ever intend on being at the bottom of the pile this league.
I like it. So it's a confident yet not cocky approach, a model of consistency, some would say. Kind of leads me to my next point, though. You had a very promising regular season, and you obviously had a disappointing finish to the year. I won't say, bring up names or anything like that, but obviously you went one and done in the playoffs. You're still seeking your first playoff win. And let's call a spade a spade. The playoffs in the GPDL, very week to week, but very, very, very pressure situation. Did you learn anything from your first playoff experience?
Oh, absolutely. So I think I learned more actually watching what some of the other guys did, to get as the playoffs approached and even in the playoffs, more so than my own team. I made the trade for Lamar Jackson, which was a huge boost to the Sons of Washington. I think it really sent us into the playoffs with some momentum. But I did try to make some moves to get a couple additional pieces. I won't say what players, but at the end of the day, I didn't offer enough, and I think some of those players that went to other teams at the trade deadline really catapulted those teams into the playoffs and to help get them deeper into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I could have taken advantage of and maybe offered a little more to make a run. I think I was sold on keeping that level of consistency and not selling the farm for just to go all in on 1 year. But I think something I learned is that if you're in the position to make the playoffs, you can't be thinking of longevity too much. You do gotta kind of be in the moment and make any moves necessary to win that year.
I like that answer. So it seems like the Sons of Washington definitely, learned something, try to take a positive from a negative experience. I like it. All right, so moving on. We talked about the playoff pressure, and, some would say, you kind of highlighted it, that going in through 2 years, and we'll call it, this offseason, that Nick Galletta was a bit of a conservative owner. Didn't trade to trade, which a lot of people respect. But some people thought that you were almost becoming in the realm of Walt, where you didn't trade enough. Anything to, comment or add to that?
Yeah, I don't think I take a long time to analyze any trade. And look, even the Lamar Jackson trade that I had with Rust, it was turned out to, from what it appears to be, a pretty one-sided affair. But I didn't accept that right away when it came in. I kind of took some time. So everybody said I won that trade right away, but I didn't look at it immediately and click accept. I did some due diligence, did some research. So I'm a very careful. I take a very cautious approach to any trade just to make sure I'm not being hasty. I'm not making a decision that's going to hurt me in the long term. That being said, I think everybody gets the bug to trade, especially in the off season. It even got to me. I had some people telling me that I wasn't trading enough, and it made me look into certain trades and start exploring it a little more. And that's how I ended up with Nick Chubb.
Okay, which isn't a bad deal, not a bad trade at all.
Yeah, no, and I think I have a huge mindset where I want to find the most value for the lowest price. And I know that sounds obvious, but I'm very, very hesitant to go after anybody who I think is even slightly overpriced. So as far as my cautious trade approach, I do, I don't look at it as a negative. I'd rather sit here and watch others trade because you know what? Sometimes letting the field play itself and letting others trade makes it a little bit easier for myself to find a good trade partner.
It does.
Somebody else getting a wide receiver, maybe I'm, it's a little easier for me to trade with that person than it was the guy who originally had him.
I think that one very underrated element is, I call it trade rapport. How is your relationship with that person? Have you done trades with that person? Because some people, let's face it, just have a negative stigma when it comes to trades in the eyes of another person. Always think they're trying, like BBW, always thought I was trying to get over on them. I was just trying to make my team better. So that's a good point. I like that answer. All right, let's keep things moving. One question I did not ask Jared yesterday, but I was looking at some analytics, and I just want to get your quick, direct to the point answer. The National Conference, NFC, now has 3 titles. The AFC has 2. Obviously, GOAT, Chuck, and myself have a title versus Rusty and Jared each having 1. Has this power shifted? For a couple years, people thought, 5-8 team winning the champ. The bottom line is 2 5-8 teams have won the championship. The year before that, Mike Bradley won the Mike Bradley. So we have won 3 in a row. Are we the better conference?
Well, so I think it's a tough question to answer because I wasn't in the league for the first 3 years.
Well, just to clarify for you, the first 3 years was a different format. It was divisions of 5.
Sure.
And Frank was then traded and now is back. So there's been some alignments. Gal used to be over in the AFC. Gal has come over to the NFC when we went to the four division, 2 conference format. But right now, who's the better conference?
I think the AFC is the most top heavy, but I think across the board, at the end of last season, the NFC was the overall more competitive conference. I think the AFC had their hard hitters with Jared and Russ and ZZ. I think those guys were, they kind of pulled away early on in the season. The NFC seemed like it was competitive throughout.
Absolutely.
So, maybe it's a little biased, but I think across the board, the NFC is overall the most competitive conference.
Yeah, if I think about it, I think the AFC is a sexy division. Put up big numbers and stats when it's warm. And I feel like the NFC is truly like, the Bears, the Packers, the Eagles, the northern teams where we come to play and are consistent throughout that cold weather and our playoff runs.
Yeah, it's tough because you look at it, right, and you look at the AFC, and I think Jared mentioned it yesterday that you look at a team like Walt who has a tremendous amount of talent, but just from what it seems like every year, it doesn't come to fruition.
Can we call a spade a spade? The organizational leadership is the problem at Team Walt. It's not the players, it's the organizational leadership. It starts at the top. The talent cannot win if they don't have a good leader. So, let's not harp on Walt. We know what he is. He's it's where talent goes to die, essentially. So here we go. We're gonna wrap this up with the rapid fire lightning round. I'm gonna give you 5 questions, just like I did with Jared, and give me the first name that comes to the top of your mind. All right?
Let's do it.
All right. I'm gonna reverse. I'm gonna start with trade partners. Who is the best trade partner that you've experienced so far?
Best trade partner, probably just because I think I've done the most with them, but also it's smooth sailing with Jared.
Jared.
I think Road Warriors is an easy trade partner, hands down.
Agreed. I think they're quality. Who is the worst trade partner?
So worst trade partner, I think. Well, that's tough. You and I have never done a trade, but I think that's not because either of us are bad trade partners. It's just because it's interdivision.
And we haven't really engaged in many trade conversations.
Right. I would say that Walt or Chuck may be the worst trade partners, and I need to clarify. Chuck necessarily isn't a terrible trade partner. I think sometimes we just don't always see eye to eye on value.
Okay, totally understood. All right, who is the most overhyped owner in the league? And what I mean by overhyped, Jared said himself yesterday, and I really respect that answer. Who do you think gets a little bit too much respect associated with their fantasy name?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I'm going to say, I think, an answer that people may not agree with, and it's just because I haven't gotten experience. I haven't had much fantasy experience with them. I'm going to say Moose.
Moose.
And the reason I'm going to say Moose is because, I think everyone hypes him up in the chat, which seems like there's good reason behind it. But I just haven't. The first year I was in it with him, he didn't perform well, and then he left. And last year he did okay, but still no playoffs. So I haven't seen any success come out of Moose Midway. So I just, for me, that's just got to be my answer.
You know what? And Moose, I'm sure, is going to come on the show. That's not a bad answer. I think last year should not be counted. He took over a disaster and actually made something of it. But Moose, for a fun fact, sorry Moose, I got to call this out, is still searching for his first GPDL fantasy victory or playoff victory. Interesting.
See, I think I knew that. I think it's
lingering.
Yes, I just think I got to go Moose.
All right, here we go. Last 2. Who's the biggest contender heading into the 2020 season as you see it right now?
What do you mean? Just the best team or somebody who nobody thinks is going to make it?
In your eyes, who do you not want to see in the playoffs, playoff matchup?
honestly, right now I'm at say OTT. I think
OTT.
I'll take it. You'll be hotter at the end of the season. I think your lineup here is looking pretty good if everybody stays healthy and if Eckler stays in a starting role.
Absolutely. I think Eckler's my guy, riding him into 2020. All right, biggest pretender. Who's got too much hype surrounding their team right now?
Biggest pretender. I'm going to say the biggest pretender right now is probably ZZ.
ZZ.
And I think because he's got McCaffrey, and that McCaffrey kind of led the way for him the whole season. But
it did.
Carry-on's a question mark. Phil Lindsay and Royce Freeman don't have too much value now. So it's going to be, we'll see what Kareem Hunt does and what role he has, but it's going to be a really important draft for ZZ, maybe more important than anybody else.
ZZ gets married to people. If everyone remembers, he drafted Kareem Hunt, was absolutely devastated when he got the, kicked that woman in the face, unfortunately, for the ZZ organization. And there was no doubt in my mind he was going after him, trying to acquire him back. But I agree with that. I think that's a phenomenal answer. I think, you could split hairs, but McCaffrey goes down. That's a pretty weak organization right now. So hopefully he's got some things up his sleeve. All right, last question of the day. Give me your 3 AFC playoff teams.
3 AFC playoff teams. I'm going to go with Road Warriors.
Road Warriors.
I'm going to say that Pat Russ comes out of the AFC West.
Wow. And then who's your wild card?
The wild card, I'm going to go with... I'm going to say Rusty, just similar reason to what Jared said yesterday. Just the guy who just get the job done.
Yeah, can't count him out. All right, move it over to the NFC. Who do you got?
The NFC, I'm going to say it's OTT, GOAT, and Sons of Washington.
I like it.
And you know what? I'm actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to change one of my answers from before.
Let's hear it.
My most overhyped team and owner.
Let's hear it.
I'm going to move away from Moose because, again, I don't have as much experience with him in the league since he only took over half the season last year. I'm going to go with Ginger Jesus.
Wow. He won your first year in the league. He won the whole boat.
I know that. And I just think, I think some of his moves last year, I think he traded too early. I think I'm really surprised the way that Jared looked at his team yesterday and saw it as a playoff contender. There's just some moves that I really think are suspect. Stephon Diggs, I hate guys who come to new teams. I'm really skeptical about how they're going to perform. Marlon Mack, you just don't know what you're going to get with him. Is he going to be the lead horse? Is he going to catch any passes?
Wow.
I'm gonna move on and say it's Chuck.
Listen, it's a microphone, by the way, everyone. It's safe to say that there's a new rivalry born, and it's absolutely Sons of Washington versus Ginger Jesus. Doesn't sound like there's over amount of respect there. And if I know Chuck, I'd say it's probably mutual. Nick, I want to thank you for coming on episode 2. Any final words?
No final words. Looking forward to the season. I enjoyed the break from the chat, and I'm hoping the commissioner comes back into it, and I'm looking to get back into the weeds with all these knuckleheads in the league.
Absolutely, and stay safe in that COVID.
Absolutely, you too.
Have a good one, man.
Later.
Well, that's that. Nick Goleta, Sons of Washington. Some hot takes there. Some I agree with, some I do not agree with. But what I am definitely excited about moving into 2020 is absolutely the Ginger Jesus Sons of Washington rivalry that seems to be, getting some steam. That concludes episode 2. I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy out there, and I look forward to talking to everyone soon.